Why are we clinging on to those things? And why is it no longer working?
There is a retirement crisis because of all of the outdated beliefs and advice. Retirement planning did work. There was a window in time where you could go to school, get a job, put your money in a 401k, and it worked.
Yes.
That window stopped and that window changed beginning in the year 2000. But for the last 25 years, we've been trying to use rules that worked in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s in today's world. It does not work anymore.
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results. Whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go.
I cannot express my excitement that we have the amazing Ryan Lee on the podcast today. Ryan Lee is the co-founder of Cashflow Tactics and the creator of the Passive Income Machine, a proven system designed to help everyday people achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less. Does that feel impossible? He breaks it down here on our conversation on the podcast, so keep listening. After climbing the corporate ladder, Ryan realized success came at the cost of his family and freedom. A personal crisis when his young son needed emergency open heart surgery forced him to rethink everything. From that moment on, he dedicated himself to building wealth in a way that created both time and freedom, not just money. Today, Ryan has helped thousands of people, from overworked W-2 employees to high-income professionals, take back control of their finances and build passive income outside of Wall Street. His mission is simple: to empower people to own their time, live life on purpose, and create a legacy of freedom for their families. You are going to love this conversation. Please welcome my dear friend, Ryan Lee. You guys, welcome back to the podcast. It is Sarah Grace Allred. I am your host for today, and I want to get absolutely out of the way as fast as possible because of who I have sitting next to me. And if you are listening to this on like Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, bless you, but you're going to want to move over to YouTube because you're going to want to like experience what it's like to be in the room with Ryan Lee. Ryan, my dear friend, I'm so glad we're here together. Welcome.
What's up, Sarah? It is such a privilege, such an honor to be here with you first and foremost, and then the community of people that you've cultivated. I mean, if they're anything like you, this is going to be a treat. It's going to be such a fun conversation. I can't wait.
It's going to be great. And I have to like, spoiler alert, you guys, Ryan and I have been talking the past 20 minutes and I'm like, can we just bail on the interview? I just want to talk to you longer. So we thought, well, we better just record and we'll just keep talking, right? We'll just keep talking. And I know some immense wisdom is going to come out of it. So you guys, you've already heard his bio, all the reasons why you should be in the world of Ryan Lee. But let me just give you a little bit more of a personal twist on what I love so much about Ryan. There is something about being in the world of finance and being in the world of business and being a little sus on who you should trust in it, right? Who you should collaborate with, who you should listen to. And hello, we're going to dive deep into that in the world of finance, in your world a little bit later. But I want people to know just from the beginning that when I first entered your world, I noticed two things about you, okay? Number one is that you don't care how big someone is, how successful someone is, how well known their name is. You care about people, bottom line. And I deeply admire that about you. You are there to help people. You are there to guide them towards their dreams and their freedom. And sometimes I think that is really hard to find in the business world because people are always looking for, what can I get out of this relationship? And I love that about you. I absolutely love it. And the second thing that I notice about you is that you are willing to change your mind. And so in the world of finance, you can be teaching in one direction. And then as the economy changes, or then as policy changes, or then even as you gain better education in those things, you're willing to say, yeah, that worked a couple of years ago, but let me introduce you to what I've learned. And you're just this learner type. And that to me makes me trust you. So I'm so glad that you're here and that I can share you with my audience.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much, man. I'm going to tell my daughter that we're using the word sus on this interview because she told me I could never say that word. But if we're saying it, then it's sus. Here we go. Let's go.
Anything to be cool, Ryan.
Yeah, man, I try so hard, but I get shot down over and over. My teenager just is not going to let me be cool, whether I want to or not.
It's true. It's true. For some reason, Greg, my husband, is able to use all the words, but when I say it, I get weird looks. So we're just going to use it here on the podcast where it feels a little safer.
And we're going to be cool together.
I love it. I love it. Well, like I said, I want to get out of the way. I've already taken way too much time. For those of you who are new to the world of Ryan Lee and his really unconventional, maybe even unfamiliar ways of building wealth and freedom in your world, can you just level the playing field for us on why did you decide to go into this kind of world? What triggered it for you? What brought you into this world and where you are today?
That's such a good question, Sarah. And, I think a lot of us probably find ourselves in positions in our life where we never intended to be there. Right. And I'll be honest with you, Sarah, I never intended to be right here on a podcast with you. I'm so grateful I am. But, for me, Sarah, I kind of was my dad calls it a knucklehead. I was a little bit of a knucklehead of a teenager. I dropped out of high school, right? I wasn't really that productive in school. I didn't love that environment very much. But at 23, I found myself not having, graduated high school, just home from an LDS mission. And I'm like, what the heck? I got to get my life together. And so without any thinking whatsoever, without any questioning whatsoever, all the social conditioning that I think I wasn't just raised with, it was just prevalent in the world. It just clicked in. And so I went to school, right? And I didn't go to school for the intention of going to school. I went to the school to check the box. So I got my college degree, my 4-year degree, I got it in 2. So at 25, I had my college degree. My new wife and I, we moved from Utah to Arizona, and I started my corporate career. And I'll never forget that day, Sarah. I felt like this was a day of arrival, right? I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I now have a college degree. I've got a professional job, and they gave me my first paycheck. And I wasn't super happy about moving from Utah to Arizona, having a boss named Rob that was telling me what to do all the time. But I remember I got that paycheck and I'm like, man, I've arrived. I've done it. And so I put the check in my back pocket. I saved it to open it and kind of be a celebratory moment. And I'll never forget that day. I walked to the Bank of America. I ripped open the check. I took it out of the envelope and I looked at it. And at first I was confused and I kind of turned it over a couple of times because the number on that check was way smaller than I had ever dreamed a college grad number would be. And I remember I got that check and I was making less money. Now, taxes, insurance, moving expense, all that kind of stuff came out. But I remember a little voice started creeping up in my head and it said, I should just quit now. I was making less money as a college grad than I was as a hustler paying my way through college. But now I have a wife and I have a child on the way. And at that moment, I decided to shove that voice back down and I decided to work as hard as I could and climb the corporate ladder. Over the next couple of months, as I was climbing the corporate ladder, I started making some trade-offs and I started realizing what was required to climb the corporate ladder. And I didn't love it. So I set a new goal for myself. I thought, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to save hard. I'm going to learn how to invest. I'm going to retire early. That was my entire objective. I'm going to retire early. And over the next 4 years, from 2004 all the way to 2007, I went from making $32,000 a year to $150,000 a year. I went from saving nothing to saving almost 25% of my income. I was putting every dollar I could. And in 2007, I thought that, hey, it's kind of working, right? This idea is working. I remember my net worth crested $100,000. I had a 401k, I had a brokerage account. I was doing some option trading. I was trying to do everything I could to push this game forward.
Yeah.
Right? What happened in 2008? Everybody knows what happened in 2008. But for me, 2008 was a wake-up call. Because in 2008, my accounts dropped almost 80%. I went from over $100,000 to at the very bottom, $28,000. And I remember thinking to myself, what did I do? What the heck just happened?
Yeah.
I remember talking to all my coworkers, listening to my coworkers. And I'm so grateful for this because I was now 4.5, almost 5 years out of college. And talking to them was a window into my future. Here I had been making a lot of trade-offs with my family. I didn't even live in the same state as my family when 2008, the crash started to happen. I had a different house, a different apartment because I traveled and commuted so much. And I remember talking to these people and, their entire futures were disappearing before their eyes, right? Retirement was melting down and now they were making trade-offs, work longer, sacrifice more, have a smaller lifestyle. Like all these things were coming out of their mouths. And I realized that's a window into my future. I'm doing exactly what they're doing. But yet somehow I was thinking I could not only retire, but retire early. That was my first wake-up call. But really my second wake-up call over those first 4.5, almost 5 years, as I've been climbing the corporate ladder, I was willing to make trade-offs. I was making trade-offs. In the beginning, it was kind of exciting, right? More money, more responsibility, bigger teams, bigger geographies, all those things. But the trade-off was family. It was my presence with them. I was no longer an active father. I was no longer a present husband. I commuted, I traveled 90% of my time. And I told myself, this is what I have to do. And when I have enough money, I'll buy my life back. And about 3 months after 2008, my oldest son, he was born with a heart defect. We knew about it. We were monitoring it. We were really watching it all the way across the board. But he went into an emergency open heart surgery. And when I got that call, I wasn't home. I was in Indianapolis. My family lived in Texas. And I'll never forget coming back home over 2 weeks and being in the hospital with my son. Sarah, as he went through that surgery, I realized that the trade-offs I was making, they weren't worth it. It didn't matter. And I still felt this burden, though, as a responsibility as a provider. How do I provide for my family? How do I plan for the future? How do I be present? How do I work? How do I do all of these things? I didn't know what to do. And I'm so grateful because he was given a second chance. And with his second chance, I felt like I was given a second chance. And so for the first time ever, I evaluated everything in my life, my time, my career, my savings, my goals, my ambitions. And as I looked at what I had traded my life for up to that time, and I looked at my stock market account, my brokerage account, everything was down, I realized that trade-off was no longer worth it. But I still figured I knew I needed to find a way to invest. I knew I needed to find a way to prep for the future. I just couldn't give up that control anymore. I had to find a way to take more control. And I'm so grateful for it, Sarah, because I read 2 books. And one of them I had heard about, but I put it down almost as quick as I picked it up. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And when he said savers are losers the first time, I'm like, this guy's crazy. I'm a saver, right? I'm a saver. And I picked it back up in the hospital as I spent the next couple of weeks there evaluating everything. I read it. And what I learned the second time, really now going through it, was I had been losing the game of life. That's really what money is. Money's a function of time, right? And time is our life. That's all we've got. I was trading my time for more money, hoping I could buy my time back in the retirement world.
Right.
And when I realized that what he was talking about is when you lose the game of money, you oftentimes lose the game of life. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That just means you trade too much of your time for a life that never comes to fruition. And this opened me up. And everything that he said in that book, it confirmed the suspicions that had started to come up for me in 2008, but it didn't give me a playbook. I didn't know what to do about it. I'm so grateful because now a couple months after I read that book, I came across Robert Allen's book. And I'll never forget this moment. I was still up in Indianapolis, right? I'm living in an apartment trying to figure out how to get myself back home to Texas to be with my family. My son's out of heart surgery now. I'm grateful. I'm committed to becoming a better father, more present. And I'm trying to figure out how to rearrange my entire life. And I picked up Robert Allen's book. And the title of his book was Creating Wealth. But it was the subtitle that caught my attention. It said you could retire in 10 years using Robert Allen's principles. Now, Sarah, here's the crazy part.
Ooh.
I wanted to retire early, right? 2008 shattered that belief that I could do it with that system, with Wall Street and 401ks and IRAs. But Robert Allen's book said 10 years. Now, I'll be honest with you, Sarah, I had never considered the possibility of retiring in 10 years. And as we're talking about this for you, for your audience, think to yourself, what is absolutely possible for your life that you've never actually considered? Like it stopped me dead in my tracks. I remember exactly where I was when I read it. I picked up the book and I read through the first 5 chapters of his book in that night in my apartment in Indianapolis. And I literally almost started to cry because I saw a pathway to apply what Robert Kiyosaki was talking about in his book. He mapped out a system that if you followed this system for 10 years, at the end of 10 years, you would have 6 figures or more of tax-free income coming in for the rest of your life. And I thought to myself, I can do anything for 10 years. I can do anything for 10 years. And that started me down the pathway of alternative investing. I took everything out of the market. I stopped putting money in a 401k and I went the complete opposite direction.
Hey, does everybody just want to mastermind with Ryan Lee for the next hour? That's what we all want to do because I have questions here. I have questions. I am really, really familiar with what that pathway is for 10 years, retiring in 10 years or less, financial freedom in 10 years or less, right? My question is in the world of finance, some of the words that are coming up now in 2025 and as we approach 2026 is so much of what's going on is unprecedented. Right? That real estate prices are unprecedented. Real estate prices and interest rates combined, unprecedented. 2007, 2008 was unprecedented. And I think often we think about these strategies and these ideas of 401ks or life insurance or real estate or just tuck it under your mattress or go get gold, that it's hard to make a decision right now because all of the dynamics at play feel unprecedented. And so what if this is the time that real estate, in an unprecedented way, goes under the radar and blows up and never recovers? Like, how do you have certainty and confidence moving forward in some of these ideas that you've read about? I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Let's go.
I love that, Sarah. Those are such good questions. Unprecedented. You're absolutely right. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you two examples. Okay. So this summer, we just got done with summer. Kids are back in school, right? We did a family reunion and we went to Lake Powell, right? Love Lake Powell.
Love.
And, the interesting thing about being on the water is on the top, it's noisy, it's busy. There's boats, there's jet skis, there's, people playing in the water. But if you've ever been scuba diving, right? If you've ever been scuba diving down below the surface of the water, it gets quiet, it's slow, it's calm. So on the surface of the financial world, it's noisy, it's loud, it's chaotic, and everything feels unprecedented. Everything is the newest thing, the latest thing, the thing that's going to change everything. But underneath the surface, there are real principles, and there are real principles, not just in money, but in life in general, that when you identify with a principle, the game slows down. It gets really, really easy.
Ooh, I love that.
And there are principles with money, since we're talking about that are very, very specific that I won't say never, but I'm going to say pretty close to never actually get addressed in traditional financial planning. Number one principle is this: the purpose of all savings, fill in the blank, is what? Like, if you're putting your money away for the future, what is the purpose of it? Well, it's to spend that money in the future. That's all retirement is. It's future spending. So retirement is a function of investing in assets that deliver cash flow. Now, if I understand that, Sarah, then I can look at where I put my money. And rather than unprecedented, I don't really care what the value of real estate is. I don't really care what the value of the stock market is. I don't care what cryptocurrency value is. None of that matters, because the value is based on public perception. It's based on what someone else is willing to pay for it. I can look at an asset and say, how much income does that asset give me regardless of its value? Then the game slows down. Right? I can start to refine my investment decisions to say, how do I take the money that I have today, put it in an asset, think about it like an ATM, that delivers consistent income for me? Once I can start to evaluate that, then all of the noise goes away. And I just say, how do I buy cash flowing assets? How much income does it give me? How much does that income rise with inflation? Is it impacted with taxes? And how long does it last? That slows the entire game down. So if we want to apply that specifically to real estate, we can. But does that idea make sense, compared to this idea of chaotic and unprecedented?
Oh, I'm actually kind of blown away. And I'm a huge Ray Dalio fan, right? Probably my favorite book on earth is Principles. Yeah. And looking from that lens to say, what is the principle being taught? And I imagine that most of us who were raised by 9-to-5ers had the greatest parents ever, you know that, right? Greatest parents ever that did the 401k thing and all that stuff. That's often we just don't explore any other avenue because it feels dangerous or it feels risky. And yet, when you look at what are the underlying principles that got us into those kinds of strategies in the first place, as long as you can hang on to that principle, what you're saying is there are other options that follow those principles and maybe consider to open your eyes to those.
Well, let's apply that same principle to the 401k. Like, if you have a 401k or an IRA or any form of retirement account, right now, the vast majority of people use the stock market in whatever form or fashion we want to call it for saving for retirement. Now, let's apply this principle right here, because this is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
When was the last time your financial advisor? When was the last time your financial plan? When was the last time an online article or a podcast or anyone that you get financial advice from talked about how your 401k gives you income?
Never.
Okay. So now we've got a major problem, right? Because now we're in a position where most people feel unprepared for retirement. Why is that? Because they have no idea how much money has to be in their 401k, what their net worth has to be to give them the income that they want. Once you can answer that question, then the game gets really, really easy. And there is an answer to that question. And that's why savers are losers, is the answer to that question. They will do everything. And when I say they, the financial industry will do everything they can to hide you from answer, or to distract you from answering that question. They'll talk about market highs, all-time highs, stock market's up, whatever it is. None of that matters. None of that matters. That's the noise on the surface until you understand how your 401k converts into income.
Wow. So diverting the conversation a little bit, where you talked about how you dropped out of high school and then you ended up going, which is just so impressive. I love your story so much. Right. And then you also went and got a college degree because you just culturally felt like, well, that is the box I need to check in order to do that. So you have kids. In fact, you have a child that is on a mission. You have a teenage daughter, like all of these things. What is the dynamic like in your home when you guys talk about money and saving? And I want to dig into it. What's it like at your house?
Man, I love that. So here's if I could boil financial advice down into one thing, this is what I tell my kids all the time. And there's, because we've talked about this, they have a little bit of understanding of what I'm about to say. But the central premise for our financial plan is this: convert fake dollars into real assets. Fake dollars into real assets. And when we understand that, I wish I had a dollar bill here, but if you hold up a dollar bill, on that piece of paper, it's just a piece of paper. But not only is it just a piece of paper, on the top of it says Federal Reserve Note. It's an IOU. It doesn't really have any intrinsic value. And today it gets even more confusing because money takes a lot of different forms today, right? It's numbers on a bank account, it's cryptocurrency, it might be gold and silver, right? There's lots of different forms, but at the end of the day, money serves one purpose. It's a medium of exchange. Remember, all I want to do, future in retirement planning, is future spending. It's cash flow planning. So I want to convert a meaningless piece of paper or a number on a computer screen or a cryptocurrency or anything like that. I want to convert those forms of exchange into an asset that delivers real income. And if I can understand that, then the game gets so easy. Convert fake dollars into real income. And the real measurement of financial freedom, it's not your net worth, it's your time. Right? Financial freedom is when I have enough assets that produce enough income that buy my time back. So if I can look at the game of money that way, I want my time back. I want to convert fake dollars into real assets that produce income, so I don't have my work is optional. Then the game of money starts to simplify. And the reason I say that, there are very few things that can effectively do that in an effective way. And especially if we go back to Robert Allen's premise in his book, Retire in 10 Years. Our goal really determines the process that we take. And if I have a goal to retire one day, then any process will get me there. It's not a definitive enough goal.
True.
If I have a goal of retire when I'm 65 and I'm 35, well, then I can play the 401k game and I can cross my fingers and hope that it works out. But if I pick up Robert Allen's book and he says retire in 10 years and that now becomes my goal, no matter where I start, that's going to refine my process by default. And if I use convert fake assets into real money in 10 years or less, or convert fake assets and convert fake dollars into real assets and do that in 10 years or less, then my process gets super narrow. So that's really the way I see the world of finance.
And I'm dying because I'm a huge Ryan Lee fan. I'm also a huge Ben Hardy fan. And Ben Hardy just came out with a new book, The Science of Scaling. Yeah. And it is based around this principle, Ryan, this principle of what's the big goal, right? Retire. I want to retire with millions or whatever that number is, make it the impossible goal. But it's the second part that we forget, and that is to shorten the time frame. Right? Shorten the time frame that you actually want to accomplish that impossible goal. 10 years or less, for most people listening, I would say almost all people listening, retiring in 10 years or less feels like an impossible goal, right? In such a short time frame. And the reason that is so effective from a principle level, what I'm hearing from you is the shortened time frame actually narrows the options for you on how you can actually accomplish it. Because so many of us are getting pulled by, and I keep saying the same things, by crypto, by life insurance, by 401ks, by whatever it may be. And it's really hard to know what direction to take because we haven't narrowed the time frame. for that impossible goal. Would you say you and Ben Hardy are aligned on that principle?
Oh man, Ben Hardy is, I joke with him. He actually is part of this new book that we're coming out with.
Oh, good.
And I joke with Ben all the time that I both love him and hate him. He both enhanced my life and ruined my life. Because I read 10X is easier than 2X. And man, everything changed after I read that book, 100%. Right? And so I love Ben Hardy for sure, but you're absolutely right. And let's go back to risk really quick, because I think this is the biggest thing that I would like your audience to get their head around. Like if we really look at risk, what is risk? Risk is the deviation from the expected. It's really all it is, right? Mm-hmm. I expect something and it either has positive upside. So even though I took risk, I got the benefit of taking risk and I got a better outcome than I was expecting. Or I got a worse outcome than I was expecting and I got the downside of risk, right? That's all risk is. Think about the biggest risk you're taking right now in your life. You've been told to trade 30 years, 40 years of your life. That's what you've been told. That's what we've all been told. That's the traditional path to retirement. After you trade that 30 or 40 years, if it works out, then you got the positive side of risk, right? I mean, okay, cool, I retire, right? When I'm 65 and I sell off into the sunset. But what if it doesn't? What if you don't have enough money? What if the 401k doesn't give you the income that you hoped or thought it would? What if, because you don't have an answer to that question, how much income does my 401k give me? What if you retire with this stereotypical, today, the average net worth of people in their 50s is about $500,000. Do you know how much income that produces, Sarah, according to Wall Street standards?
No.
Under $2,000 a month.
Oh, Ryan.
So the risk, the biggest risk in my viewpoint is this. You trade 40 years of your life and you only find out when it's too late to make another trade that the trade didn't work out. That's the risk that you're taking. What I'm going to at least open up the doorway of possibility is you've got 10 years. And if in 10 years it doesn't work out, I can promise you'll be better off than where you are today. 100%, I can promise that. But number two, maybe it takes you 12 years, right? But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out after 10 years, you at least have time to pivot. Whereas in the other game, you stay clung to these beliefs that are truly not working. The evidence is overwhelming, but yet we're given the exact same pathway. And the one question that has to be answered is never talked about. How much income will a 401k produce? So if that trade doesn't work out, you now put yourself in a position where you're old, you're dependent, and you can't retire. And that's the worst possible position to be in today. And if you just get online, just look at the evidence is overwhelming. There is a retirement crisis because of all of the outdated beliefs and advice. And I want to be clear about this, Sarah. This is the hardest part about this. Retirement planning did work. There was a window in time where you could go to school, get a job, put your money in a 401k, and it worked.
Yes.
That window stopped and that window changed beginning in the year 2000. But for the last 25 years, we've been trying to use rules that worked in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s in today's world. It does not work anymore. And there are very specific reasons why.
Okay. And I want you to answer the reasons why. Let me give you a frame around this. I do believe in the innate goodness of people. Mm-hmm. I am an optimist. I think you know that about me. I believe in the goodness of people. And so when I think about my own financial planner, or when I think about some of these people that are trying to help people plan for retirement, I have a really hard time feeling like they're trying to dupe me. They're trying to, just lead me along for 30 or 40 years. I don't believe that people innately act poorly in the interest of other people. So my question is, why are we clinging on to those things? And why is it no longer working?
I'm going to give you an example. So this happened not this week, but last week. My brother is, and I won't go into all the details of it. My brother runs a solar company, and solar has been wrecked with the big, beautiful bill and Donald Trump. And so he brought a couple of his sales reps over, his top-notch sales reps, and many of them have left the solar world, and they're now selling insurance. And they went back to my brother, because my brother's a very well-respected leader in the solar industry, and told him what they were doing. And my brother said, dude, you're not working in the best interest of the consumer. You got to go talk to my brother, which is me. So he brought his best top reps over, and they told me I knew exactly what they were selling. I knew it. I knew what they were selling. And there are types of insurance that are predatory. There are types of insurance that are sold as one thing that have a major underlying cost. And they came over and they're like, dude, Ryan, we've watched every one of your videos. We love what you talk about. We love what you do. We're selling the exact same thing as you are. I'm like, you're not.
You're not.
And I pulled out what they're selling and I showed them how it actually works underneath the surface, the contract that they're putting people into, and they realized that they understand the principle, but they didn't understand the product. They understand the outcome. They were trying to do what's best interest with the person. Yeah. They have no idea what the heck they're selling. And here's my view of financial advice. My view of financial advice is exactly what you said. I believe that most people are doing naturally, inherently, what they believe is in the best interest of the people they're serving. And the best way I would align that is most financial advisors, they're following the same thing they're telling you to do. So they wouldn't tell you to do something and then do the opposite. They're putting their money in a 401k. They're maxing out their IRA too. They just don't understand the game of money, the rules of money, and they're just doing what everyone else around them does. It's like that goldfish analogy, right? When there's two new goldfish swimming in a bowl of water, and they swim by the old goldfish, the one that's been in the bowl for a long time, and the old goldfish says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two younger goldfish turn back to the old goldfish like they're stunned and shocked, and they say, "What the heck is water?" They have no idea they're swimming in water. It's not part of their perspective. We swim in a world where everyone believes Wall Street is the way to save for money, to save for retirement. And most people are swimming in that bowl having no idea that the rules change and anything outside of their paradigm feels like a risk.
That resonates. So why has it changed? What happened in the 2000s that no longer make this a viable option for those of us who are trying to open our eyes to it?
Okay, so a couple of things changed, okay? And it actually changed a little bit further back. And this is, the interesting part about this. Let me give you just a teeny bit of history to kind of fully flesh this out. Like in 1971, our economy changed forever. Now, I don't know if you know what happened in 1971, but in 1971, our dollar, it used to be linked to gold, meaning for every time they put more dollar in the US economy, there had to be more tangible hard currency. So it kept the biggest tax that we have on our dollar today, which is inflation. It kept that in line. But in 1971, President Nixon removed the gold standard. And he said, look, it's no longer viable that the dollar has to be attached to gold. And it started to open up inflation. From 1971 all the way to 2025, between inflation and new money printing, do you want to know what's happened?
I don't even, maybe I don't.
97% of its purchasing power. The average rate of inflation, it does not matter what they tell you it is because they've changed the definition so many times and we can all feel it, right? We were just talking about this off air. The price of things are going up. The home that you wanted to build, is it more valuable today than it was a year ago? No. Why did the price go up?
I blame it on lumber. I blame it on tariffs. I don't know. Inflation.
There are more dollars chasing the same goods or services. Like that's really all it is. I mean, think about this like Kool-Aid. Remember back in the day, we would have one packet of Kool-Aid and you're supposed to mix it with like 4 jugs or 4, cups of water. Yeah. If you had a bunch of friends come over, you just put a couple extra cups of water in and you'd stretch the flavor out a little bit and you would water it down. So the flavor wasn't quite as powerful, but there was more Kool-Aid to go around. Here's the problem, Sarah. From 1971 all the way to today, the monetary supply, the amount of money has increased by 350%. Oh. And if you break that down year by year, it's caused about a 6% rate of inflation, real inflation. And that's why gas is more expensive, cars are more expensive, homes are more expensive. Those things, like if you really think about this, modern technology and ingenuity should drive prices down, not up, right? Remember when flat screen TVs came out, they were like $3,000 and then the technology got better, the prices went down. That should happen across the board. But it doesn't because there's more dollars in the economy. Prices go up, not because things are more valuable, not because we're less efficient. We're more efficient. It's just being taken away by inflation. So if we bring it all the way back to the front, the reason savers are losers is you cannot save enough. You cannot save enough money when you put it into an account like a 401k. You get what the market. In fact, let me just give your users the math, okay? And verify this. This is not me. This is. So in order for you to retire using the markets, there's something called the 4% rule. And all it states is if you retire using the markets, imagine retiring in 2000, right? The market is up. You retire. You take your income out of your account to fund your retirement and the market goes down. Right? What happens in that scenario? It's a double negative impact. And the chance of you running out of money, spending through your portfolio before you actually, run out of time, die, goes through the roof. And so in order to balance spending in a volatile economic world, the recommended distribution rate, it's called the 4% rule. What that means is no matter what your net worth is, you should only take 4% of that as annual income. And that will give you the highest probability of not running out of money before you run out of time. So now let's just play a little game. Take the amount of income. Sarah, just throw a number out. How much, if you retire today, how much income would you want?
Like per month?
Per month. Yep. That's totally fine.
Let's say $15,000 a month.
Okay. $15,000 a month. We're going to multiply that by 12. That's $180,000 a year. Now, in order to have a net worth big enough at the 4% rule, just throw a number out. How big do you think your net worth would need to be to produce $180,000 a year in income or $15,000 a month?
3 million.
Ooh, you're really close. 4.5.
I've done some of my homework, but I'm still off by $1.5 million. Oh my gosh.
If you take 4.5 million, you multiply it by 4%, there's your $180,000 a year. So now you have a math equation on your hands. How much do you have today? How much are you willing to put in every single month? And what's your time frame to retirement? We can run a rate of return calculator on that to say, okay, cool. What rate of return do you have to now earn in the stock market? Is that reasonable or unreasonable? Is it higher than probable or is it lower than probable? Now, here's where that gets crazy. Okay, that's what you need in today's dollars. If we were to add inflation to that equation.
Oh, I don't even want to know.
You don't even want to know because you know that the monster is ugly. You know that the math is not in your favor. You know that it's never going to work. That's why you don't want to know. And so if we can just face the problem and look at it in the eyes, it's scary, it's ugly, and it's disgusting. But my gosh, once we can look at it, we understand what the problem is. And if we understand what the problem is, we can say, look, I'm done playing a game that I can't control. I'm done playing a game that the odds, the economy is working against me. I'm done playing a game where I'm deferring my taxes, I'm parking my money, and I'm hoping inflation doesn't wipe me out of the game. And what if for just a moment, Sarah, what if you could imagine a world where you stepped into another world? You stepped on the other side of the line, another equation where inflation actually made you wealthy. Wouldn't that change the game a little bit? Rather than saying, oh, I don't even want to know what my number has to be. What if you stepped into a world where, oh, okay, I own an asset, convert fake dollars into real assets, that the asset gets more valuable, more expensive over time, and inflation's actually making me wealthy. And rather than deferring my taxes in a 401k, what if I eliminated them? Like those same things that are working against you on the Wall Street side can actually work for you when you get into the world of true economic principles.
And it's so refreshing to sit across from someone I deeply trust and deeply respect and say, okay, maybe he's onto something. You've clearly looked at history. You've clearly understood what 401ks have done and haven't done, how the rules changed, all of those things. And so what does that world look like? Like, what does a world look like in which inflation becomes my friend? Because it is clearly not going down and it is clearly not going away.
Okay. So I want to get pretty clear with you on this. And this is so back in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, retirement planning was easy. It was really easy. You didn't really need a financial education, right? I mean, let's assume way back in the 70s, all you had to do was go to school, get a job, and get a job with a pension. And then you have a paycheck for life.
Right.
Once that started to change, right, as companies walked away from pensions and they started going to, defined contribution plans, which are 401ks, the market value ballooned. Like I have a graph here on my computer right now because I'm doing a training this weekend, and it's insane. Like the average rate of return from 1970 to 1999, it was almost 15% a year. Like you couldn't lose. All you had to do was put money in the market. And it wasn't because the market was getting more valuable. It's because all of the money that wasn't going to the market, the door opened up. And now 401ks became a staple part of the American corporate world. And all of this money was flooding in. And all you had to do was follow the path. This is when the book, the Millionaire Next Door came out. Go to school.
Oh, interesting.
Get a good job. Right? Save diligently, pay off your home. Don't live beyond your means. Let the market grow your wealth and retire. That worked. Sarah, it really did work.
It really did work. This matters, I think, to those listening, that it used to work. Like the rules have changed. Okay. The rules have changed. So keep listening.
That's when that book came out and it codified what had been working for the last 20 years. And everyone pointed and said, hey, I can do that. I can work a job. No big deal. If I can retire, then that trade-off's worth it. But in 1998, that's when Robert Kiyosaki came out with his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was really interesting. Think about two fighters going at it, traditional model. And then Kiyosaki comes out and says, savers are losers. Debt is money. The rich don't work for money, right? He counterbalanced the entire game. And what Kiyosaki saw is he saw the problems that started in 1971 that were starting to compound, and in 2000, and then again in 2008, and then again in 2022, and again, likely here in the near future. He's been proven right over and over and over and over again, that it's unsustainable to build your wealth in the markets. It's unsustainable using the 4% rule. When we factor in inflation, we factor in taxes, that doesn't work. And so when he says savers are losers, he's not derogatory. You should save money, but where you save it and how you save it makes all the difference. And if you lose the game of money, then by default, you lose the game of life. You trade 40 years of your life for a game that didn't work out. And so alternative finance, if we want to just say what does work, or fake money into a real asset. Let's go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? What does every human being need? At the very base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what are those basic needs?
Shelter, food, love.
It's just security and food.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so I'm not in the world of providing food, but I can be relatively sure that food's always in demand. Security is always in demand, and shelter is always in demand. So if I just wipe out the noisy world of real estate, the Grant Cardones, the whatever, what do I know about human behavior? Everyone needs a place to live. If everyone needs a place to live, then what if I just bought an asset and I don't really care what it's worth? Now, do I want it to go up in value? Yeah, I want it to go up in value. But what if I bought an asset, great little asset in a nice neighborhood, and rented it out to a wonderful family? Can I be relatively assured that that asset will always be in demand?
Relatively sure based on the hierarchy of needs.
Everyone needs a place to live. Everyone needs a place to live. Do you know who the largest renter demographic is right now, Sarah?
I don't.
Baby boomers.
What?
Baby boomers are the largest renter demographic right now for two reasons. Number one, they follow the plan, right? They put their money in 401ks and IRAs, and they retired with an IRA that's not big enough and a home that's likely paid off that's gone up in value. They're selling their home to fund their retirement, and they're moving into rental communities in droves. So homes are always in demand. So if I just said, okay, cool, here's what I'm going to do. The game of money is really simple. Your best investments, you already know this because you're really good at this. Your best investment is investing in your God-given gifts, skills, talents, and abilities, solving problems in the real world and making money. Dollars are a form of value created, a problem solved. But in the game of wealth, in the game of financial freedom, it's not what I make, it's what I keep. So step number 2 is I'm going to keep my money. I'm going to find a place to put my money where it's always safe, it's always protected, it's always available, and I don't have markets or taxes or inflation hitting it like is everywhere else. I use high cash value life insurance. The reason I use that is it's the most safe and secure place to store, to grow, and to access my wealth. Now, I don't just let my money sit there, otherwise savers are losers and I can't outpace inflation. So I leverage the money in my account. I take a private loan via the private line of credit, and I buy a single family home. Buy a single family home in middle America because that's where the numbers make sense, at least for today. I own homes in Utah, but it's, you'd have to have a much bigger down payment to do it in Utah than you would in, Tennessee or in Indianapolis or places like that. But I'm going to buy a wonderful home in a wonderful neighborhood, and I'm going to rent it out. Now, do I care what it's valued at? Yes. But am I going to sell that home? No. I'm not trading it. I'm not speculating. I'm just buying an asset and letting time now do the work for me. And here's what happens with time.
You guys, you're going to die. You're going to die. Because I know what Ryan does. So hold your breath for a second. Here it comes.
Here it comes. Okay. So let's say I took out a 30-year fixed mortgage let me take one step back. Okay. Leverage is the most powerful tool. The only way, if the goal defines the process, the only way to be financially free in 10 years or less, period, there is no other way, is leverage. That's it. Now, the Wall Street side and the Dave Ramsey side conditions us to believe that leverage is bad, that debt is bad. But that's kind of lumping everything into one equation. Is food bad? Well, some foods are bad, but some foods are good, right? So it's same with leverage. So here's how leverage, bad debt is I go out and I take my money. I don't take my money. I take Visa's money and I go buy a bunch of stuff. And then I don't have the money to pay back that stuff. And then I trade my next 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years to pay back the stuff that I consume today. So it's when I buy a liability that causes me to have to trade more time to pay it back. That's bad debt. And that should be avoided. I 100% agree with Dave Ramsey. Good debt, on the other hand, is playing the game of money. So if let's throw just a little bit of rock here for just a minute, like a few rocks. If there's been more money injected into the economy, right? 350% more money since 1971 all the way to today. They're printing money. And I can be a victim of that, or I could use that system to my advantage.
Yeah.
And when I say use it to my advantage, if I go to a bank and I say, okay, hey, I've got a house here, will you give me some money? They'll say, yeah, we'll print 80% of the money needed to buy that house, which means the bank and the system that's making us poor on one side will make us wealthy on the other side. And if all I did is bought a house, so let's say, just for simple math, let's say I buy a house for $100,000 and it appreciates by 5%. It goes up in price, not necessarily value, in 1 year by 5%. If I bought it all in cash, my rate of return at the end of the year is 5%. But if I bought it using bank's money and only put 20% down, right, $200,000 or $20,000 on a $100,000 house, what's my rate of return on that same asset at the end of 1 year?
You answer
5%.
Oh,
right? Because I earned 5% on $20,000, not 5% on $100,000. I'm earning a rate of return on my money and the bank's money. So the game now is, if I can take the bank's money and buy an asset that has real value, rent it out to a wonderful family, there are people wanting to rent today. Some people have to rent. There are more people renting today than ever before. If I can buy a nice asset and rent it out to a great family, then here's what's happening. Inflation is driving up the value of that home. Inflation is driving up the amount of rent that I normally charge on a property. That cost of living goes up, rent goes up. But on the flip side, I take a 30-year mortgage. What's happening to that 30-year mortgage? I'm paying the bank back with less and less and less and less and less valuable dollars. And at the end of the day, the rent that I'm collecting is the thing that's actually amortizing my mortgage anyway. So the delta between appreciation, between rising cash flow, declining in the mortgage balance and the mortgage value, I'm creating wealth in multiple ways with real estate. So here's what I do. I make money. I keep it in my insurance policy. I never lose it. It's always compounding. I leverage a private line of credit. I put a down payment on a single family home. I get the wealth in cash flow, in appreciation, in amortization that comes back to me. I pay off my line of credit in my vault, and I do it again. And if I do it again and again and again and again, every single time I do it, it goes faster. And here's the thing, Sarah, any single person listening to this presentation today, I'm going to throw out a number. Any single one of you can retire with 6 figures or more of tax-free income for the rest of your life with an overfunded cash value life insurance policy, and somewhere between 10 to 17, maybe 20 on the high end, depending on how much income you want, but between 10 to 20 single family homes in middle America. That's all it takes.
Incredible. And my question is I know my listeners are going to say, Ryan, I cannot think of a worse time to get into the world of real estate. I look at every headline, I look at every interest rate. And so talk us through that process of how we're looking at it incorrectly, because all the headlines are saying that the housing market is a train wreck.
Okay.
Help us focus in.
What's the train wreck in the housing market? Let me get this from you, because I view the housing market, kind of going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The housing market, that's a broad statement, right? And the housing market is only a train wreck because the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates. Why did they raise interest rates? Because inflation was going too high too fast. So they tried to slow down the printing of money. Do you see how they manipulate this game?
It's wild. It kind of makes me mad.
So they've raised interest rates, but does that have anything to do with the housing markets?
I think, and the reason I'm asking this is we had users submit questions, and this is one of the questions, right? And so I'm just going to try and dive into this particular listener's brain and say, well, it's just going to cost me a lot more to be investing in 10 to 12 to 17. Go.
No, you're right. So the price of money went up, right? But let's separate the price of money in the housing market. Is the housing market still in demand?
I think so as a person. I think so. I live in Utah, and I see a lot of everything feels stalled. Everything feels stalled in Utah. Would you agree that just stuff isn't selling? People are unable to sell. People don't want to buy because they're waiting for rates to go down. Obviously, this is a very personal discussion, but I don't know the rental market. So maybe that's a whole other party.
That's a whole other thing, right?
Let's go.
Yes, that the housing, like people buying houses has slowed down because the cost of money went up, but people needing a house to live in, the people who aren't buying, what are they doing?
They have to rent.
They're renting.
They have to have a place to live.
So the housing market, the rental market is stronger than it's ever been before. The housing market is more expensive. And if the housing market is more expensive, and let's just forecast, let's look into the crystal ball. And this is for you and me are doing this on behalf of the user that submitted the question.
Yes.
Are houses going to get more expensive next year?
Yes.
What about the year after that?
Yes.
What about 10 years from now?
Yes.
Okay. So if we know that, then the housing market hasn't stalled. Less people can get in the housing market. But if I can just go buy a wonderful asset and be a wonderful solution to people's problems and needs, provide a great home to someone who wants or needs to rent, then what's going to happen by me owning that asset? It's going to go up in value. And even if the price of money is higher today, go back to what I just gave you as the rate of return. If I put a down payment on a home and the home goes up by 5%, which is on average what single family homes compound at. So the compound annual growth rate is about 5% over 50 years. At the end of 1 year, I've earned 25% return on just using the bank's money to buy an asset that will appreciate. That has nothing to do with tax advantages or cash flow. Those will increase my rate of return. But if that's true, am I willing to pay 6 to get 25?
Every day.
And here's the other crazy part. Is it really 6? Not really, right? That entire mortgage is tax deductible, which means 6 after tax deductions is closer to 4. And 4%, over a 30-year period of time, I'm going to be paying the bank back with pennies on the dollar 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, and date the rate, marry the asset. Like, who cares? I mean, if Jerome Powell lowers the interest rates, I'll refinance it through 2 or 3 years down the road, get a lower rate. But at the end of the day, the game of money is simple as this. Convert fake dollars into real assets. An asset is something that produces real income, inflation-adjusted tax advantage for the rest of your life. Give me an asset that's better at doing that than real estate, and we'll debate that.
And again, going full circle, you are someone that I know as new information comes in or as things would change, you would change your opinion if there really was a better way. I know that.
100%. And I've changed my opinion on quite a few things over the years. But honestly, for me, as I've understood the economy, and here's the biggest change that Robert Kiyosaki pointed out in his book, and I think many people want to kind of skip over this. The difference between what worked then and what works now, the only caveat is financial education. That's it. Oh. And it's not taught in schools. It's not taught by financial advisors. What does a financial advisor teach you? Give me your
do. Yeah. Let me do it.
Than you. Let me take care of it for you. Just cross your fingers and hope that I know what I'm doing. Right? There's no financial education taught. Your listeners right now, the fact that they're listening to this right now, they're making the best financial investment that they can make in their future. They're raising their education. Money is only a tool. That's all it is. It's just a piece of paper. It's a number on a bank account. That's it. Yeah. And it will do whatever you want it to do. But in order for it to do the things that you want it to do effectively, you have to raise your financial education. Money will never replace you in this economy as the driver. So hopefully that's what we've been kind of opening up today for your audience is financial education is the key. And with the right education, I can take a step back and look at the game of money and I can see what's going on the Wall Street side, what's going on the alternative investment side, and I can find some undercurrent of real principles that apply across the board.
I love it. And this is actually the perfect segue into one of the final questions I want to ask you. Because as you encourage us to increase our brains and our education when it comes to finance and open our minds to these opportunities, a user submitted a question that I thought was so poignant for what you just said. And this particular user feels like when they're in a space where they're ready to invest, which is right now, and they know that their money can do more for them, they feel like they are most drawn to whatever strategy the person across the room from them is teaching. If they're sitting across from you, Ryan Lee, they are like already Googling where they can find a place in Tennessee. Like they're already ready for it. And then they go sit next to someone else that is all about 401ks and the history of the market. And okay, that's what they're going to go do. Or they go sit across from Josh Forty and they're like, oh my gosh, crypto for life, right? Like, let's do all of these routes. But they feel like they actually can't make their own opinion because again, they're in that space of noise and someone I think I trust, noise and someone I think I trust, noise and someone I think I trust. And so therefore they feel paralyzed. So what would you say to someone like that feels like they're ready to jump on board with whoever happens to be presenting to them at the time? And then the minute later, they're ready to go a different direction because of another voice. How do you discover what is true?
So I'll tell you what, this is my biggest belief about financial strategy today is everything comes down to a game plan. No one sells a game plan. Everyone wants to come back. We all want to argue about products. Is this better than that? Is that better than this? At the end of the day, who knows, right? I mean, cryptocurrency is phenomenal, right? But at the end of the day, if I can just take a step back and get it really, really quiet, I don't want to speculate with the hope of being a crypto millionaire. I don't want to speculate with the hope of having millions of dollars in my 401k. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is how do I buy my life back? How do I fund my lifestyle without me going to work every single day? And until I understand that, no product matters. But once I understand what are the most beneficial ways to replace my income, cash flow for life, tax advantage, now I can start to look at products in a specific order, the sequence of these products to get me the outcome that I want. And for me, I think this is the real secret sauce that we bring to the table is, yeah, we use products, but we don't sell products. We sell a game plan. That's really what we do. We reverse engineer how much income do you want? What are the impact of taxes on that income if you're deferring them or we eliminate them? We get clear on where you're at today, and then we help you own assets. And here's the best part about this. Let's take one step back again. Maybe I sit down in front of a crypto person. Maybe I sit down in front of a Wall Street person, and it all sounds really good. Now, crypto, there is an element of this. I don't want to downplay because I do actually believe in Bitcoin as part of a financial strategy.
Cool.
But if I sit down in front of someone who tells me to give me their money, the question I have to ask myself is this. It all comes down to ownership. Do I own anything? Do I own an asset? What do I actually own when I put my money in a 401k? I own nothing. I don't directly own shares of a company. I own a mutual fund. I don't directly have stock options in that company unless I go to Apple and I buy a stock in Apple. And even if I buy a stock in Apple, how much control do I have over the thing that I own? None, right? I can go buy another iPhone, but so can everyone else, right? And so I don't really have any control. And without control and without ownership, you'll never be free, period. And I don't care how much money you have in a 401k, you'll never actually be free because you'll always be waiting for things outside of your control, outside of your ability to understand, to impact the wealth that you have. So the real bridge that we're crossing is the ownership economy. No matter who you sit down in front of, ask them, what do I own? If you own an asset in Tennessee, right, using that example, it doesn't matter if I'm part of the equation or not, right? I mean, you own an asset. Now, if I'm part of the equation, I can help you optimize that asset. But if I'm not part of that equation, you still own an asset. You're still getting tax advantages. You're still getting income. That's really what it comes down to. In my mind, it starts with a game plan. Ben Hardy again, the goal determines the process. I need a process to get clear on what's my outcome. How do I know if I've won? Where am I starting from? And what's the process to get there? Then once I understand that, then I can find the right assets that I actually have ownership in. And if at all possible, and it is possible, so just do this, align your money with the wealth forces, taxes, inflation, interest rates, and opportunity cost. Those four forces are always at work at our economy. The only question is, are those four forces working against you, making it harder for you to build wealth, or are they working for you? Or is it making it easier for you to build wealth? If those things are behind my back, they're pushing me forward. I'm getting wealthy because taxes are on my side. I'm getting wealthy because interest rates are on my side. Inflation is on my side. Opportunity cost is on my side. If I put my money in a 401k, all four of those things that are working for me on this side are now working against me on the other side. And that's what makes the math almost improbable.
Wow. And really to wrap that in like the prettiest bow possible, the two things that stand out to me for this listener is number one, get still. Get in a space where you can
get still. I love that.
Get still. I love how you even just did this physically. You just backed away. Like get yourself in a space where it is still. I believe in stillness. I believe in meditation. I believe in like the spirit, those things. Get still. And the second thing that I really, really love, once you are still, how will you know if you've won? Have you actually set the target, or have you let someone else set it for you? Right? Like, thanks, Ben Hardy, saved our lives, ruined our lives, all in the same breath, right? Thanks, Ben. Get still, and how will you know if you have won? Right?
That's so powerful, Sarah. So powerful.
Just really extracting it from you, right? I mean, you're the genius here in the room. So we have been so blessed today to learn so much from you. And I think the saddest thing is that we are coming to the end of an interview here. And so I want to make sure that everybody here, before I ask you a couple of just rapid fire questions here at the end, is these people do need a game plan. These people do need a direction. And some of these people are early entrepreneurs. Some of these people are bringing in 10 million a year that are listening. And there is a form of paralysis in the financial world right now. So if they are interested in a game plan or learning more about you, what is the best way for them to have a conversation with you?
Love that. A couple of things. So number one, Sarah, I am so excited. I'm releasing a book here in the next couple of weeks. And it feels like a coming to fruition of 15 years of just work, labor, effort, energy. And it's not me. It's the community I have an opportunity to serve. I mean, I feel like this book is our story. And it's authored with Robert Allen, the author of Creating Wealth. We brought him out of retirement to show him what we've been doing with his original book. And it's forwarded and heavily influenced by Robert Kiyosaki. So those two mentors of mine came together to collaborate with me on this book. And I'm so grateful for it. So we're going to launch it here at the end of the year, or at the end of this month, September, at the Retire in 10 Years Summit. So Retire in 10 Years. We're going to show you exactly how the playbook works, exactly how the framework works. And you can get the book. There's lots of stuff that comes with it. So that would be one way. But if you feel like, hey, it's super urgent, I got to get a hold of you, I got to figure this game out right now, just email me directly. You can do that through Sarah, or you can just do it to me directly. My email address is ryan@cashflowtactics.com. ryan@cashflowtactics.com. Okay. That's our bread and butter. That's our secret sauce, is mapping out the principles I've talked about, showing how those principles apply to your life, your world, and showing you a pathway of what financial freedom in 10 years or less absolutely is possible for you, could look like, no matter where you're starting from.
I love it. And that is so generous of you to be able to publicly show a way in which they can reach you directly. And I would encourage every single person to do two things. Number one, if you have felt an inch of hope in listening to Ryan today, email him. Do not wait. Do not polish it. It doesn't matter. Like, get in there and start a conversation with Ryan. I trust him so deeply, right, in this kind of world. So please email him. And second, every single person, myself included, needs to be at that summit. Right? We've got all the information down in the show notes and on YouTube and all those kinds of things. I'm going to be emailing my list about it, but please be in a position where you can attend that so that you can begin to feel what is possible for you, because the rules have changed, and I've seen it work in my life. I've seen it work in Ryan's life and in the hundreds, if not thousands of people that he has guided to a whole new way of experiencing freedom while not leaving your family in the dust in the process. So it's a very real thing. In typical Unreasonable Autonomy podcast fashion, I just have a couple of rapid fire questions that we ask every single guest to wrap this up. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, so the first one is, and you can't say a financial book. I'm going to put that caveat in here. What is one book every entrepreneur should read?
I love this. The Happiness Advantage.
Oh, never heard that one. What?
Yeah, the best book ever. It'll give you your competitive advantage. Sean Archer. It's a phenomenal book.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes to make sure that everyone can access it. The second one, a little bit dearer to the heart, because I know how much you love your family and your wife and how hard you've worked for those relationships. When you imagine yourself at the end of your life, what do you hope your family says about you?
That's such a good question. I hope my family says that I lived what I led. I lead my family, I lead a community, I lead people, but I hope my family says I live the principles that I talk about, that I live being an active father, that I live being a follower of Christ, that I live being an involved, honest person with my family, with the community I'm in touch with, that I live adventurously, that I live boldly, that I love courageously. Those are the things that I hope my family says, that my last statement isn't something that's etched on a tombstone. My last statement is a testament of the life that I've lived. That's really more than anything. I believe in legacy. It's not what I leave. It's not the money in a bank. It's none of those things. It's defined by how I live. I
love that. And I love how it connects so deeply to the pivots that you made so early on in your life to make sure that that was the legacy that you could leave. Well, we have been so richly fed today by the amazing Ryan Lee. Please take advantage of those two ways to work with him in a more face-to-face way through the summit, and then also through emailing him directly. Again, Ryan, just thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a phenomenon. And thank you for being so courageous to get out there and share this message in any way that you possibly can. I'm so grateful for you.
Sarah, you are the absolute best. I want you to know how much I appreciate your message, your light in the world, the way you show up in the world. Everyone in your community knows it, and I'm just going to restate it back to you. You lift others up. You give people light. You give people inspiration. You give people hope. Every time I leave a conversation with you, I leave buoyed up. I feel better and lighter about life in general, and that's a direct result of the energy that you freely give, and I appreciate you.
Oh man, everybody needs Ryan in their life. I got to tell you, thank you again so much. Thank you again for being here on the podcast, and we'll get this published and out to the world. Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.